Next up, we have Donnie Mays. He's the head football coach at South Charleston, but he does a whole lot more at that school. He's obviously a teacher and is really invested in the kids. You sat in this chair 2 years ago here at Recovery for a special night involving Aaron Dobson, a guy that you worked with from the time he stepped on campus at South Charleston. Still 2 years out now. He's 2 years into his NFL career. What was that night like for you?
It was really special for a lot of reasons. I mean, Aaron was a fantastic high school player. I wish we could have had him 10 years, but we sat about where we're eating this evening, and I asked Aaron, I said, Aaron, where do you think you'll go? And he said, I think I'm going to go to the Patriots, but I'm not sure. He said, it might be fourth round. Then next day I went home, and he got drafted in the second round. I texted him, and he was ecstatic. But that was a great experience for everyone at South Charleston. It's always good when you have a kid that you can have represent your school in the National Football League, and we've been very fortunate at South Charleston. We have 5, and one of them sitting over there, and Coach Lee, and Aaron Dobson, and I think Robert Alexander's coming tonight, but he's one of them too. So
it's kind of interesting. We were talking about guys who maybe you didn't project this way, you didn't see this coming. I had been out of the city of Charleston for 6 years, and I came back, and I came to a practice in 2006 and saw Aaron Dobson run and catch a slant and take it to the house, and I was like, that kid is a player. And so what's the difference? Whether you see a guy like Derek Pitts that you have on your roster now, you can obviously project that he's going to be a good player, whereas a so-called late bloomer who maybe won't get a lot of college attention but should. And when do you start seeing that stuff emerge in a player that you can tell that kid's going to be someone who can go to Division I level?
Well, I think, the first time I ever saw Aaron, we went out on our game field, which was our practice field at the time, and it was about 6 inches of grass, hadn't been cut forever, and he was still running like a deer through it. So I knew right then we had something special. But, I think, not just talking about South Charleston, but, the state of West Virginia in general, there's quite a bit of talent that's coming through. I mean, last year we had 9 or 10 Division I-A kids. I think that the next 2 years we're going to have it's a big boom. I mean, I think we could get up into 11s and 12s. I mean, to mention a few names, just the Johnson kid over at Jefferson. He doesn't get a lot of attention, but he's a heck of a player. We haven't played against him, but you can watch him on film and tell he's a heck of a player. The kid that tore his ACL up Wheeling Park, he's a good football player. But looking at our own kids, yeah, Derek's special in the fact that he's a high energy kid. He's in the weight room constantly. He's always working as hard as anyone else to try to be better. And we talk about getting better every day. And we're not talking about competing against your teammates or the state of West Virginia. We're talking about competing nationally and getting these guys to the camps, but getting better every single day in the weight room, in the classroom, and little things like that. So that the things that we're preaching, they're buying into.
Do you think there's anything that's kind of spurring this kind of renaissance of high-level high school football player in the state of West Virginia? Because there have been some years where you don't have that many, and then now you're looking at people like Savion Johnson at Park and your guys and the guys at Capital and all these. Like, you're starting to see a really nice large group where it's not like, oh, we're going to rank the top 5. You got to rank the top 10. You got to go even further than that.
Well, first, let me say what a travesty it would be if we didn't sit down with John Shannon and beg him to offer Aaron Dobson. Aaron had one Division I-A offer, and it was Marshall. And if it wasn't for that offer, he might just be sitting here tonight as just a great high school football player that walked on somewhere and maybe got, injured. Who knows? I mean, but just the fact that we as coaches are fighting for our kids is important. But I think what's really sparking this whole thing is the fact that these kids are getting out to these combines, these camps, and actually getting on campus. And instead of just going to Marshall and West Virginia like they normally do, they're getting to go to like the North Carolinas, like Ryan Switzer did, and going to Ohio State's camp and different things like that. And there's some camps called satellite camps now where a kid can go to a school, not a school, but a school moves their camp somewhere, and they can go be noticed by multiple college coaches other than just the school that's hosting it.
How do you, as a high school football coach, kind of manage that? Because, I mean, you have so many, like, 7-on-7 camps, down and dirty camps, things like that that these kids can go to. How do you kind of sit there and go, okay, this, do you guiding them to say, okay, this is a good one, you might want to go here, and things like that?
Well, first of all, we start with interest level, like schools that they may be interested in, and but I work my way opposite. I don't try to push kids to Division I until I've worked my way from NAIA up. Mm-hmm. So we'll call around and see if the NAIA likes them, then we'll go Division III, and that Division III is not a scholarship deal per se. They offer academic stuff, but we work our way all the way up to Division I, and if they're getting a lot of interest at each level, then we know we have something special. Derek Pitts, he just shot out of nowhere, and I think a lot of that has to do with, like I said, he got out to these camps. He went to Next Level Nations camp, and they really liked what they saw in him, and they were good friends with a lot of these coaches, but Coach Muschamp in particular, and he talked about him, and Muschamp called the next morning, and I was shocked. I answered my phone, I was like, hello, and he said, this is Coach Muschamp from Auburn. I said, yeah, right, who is this? And, but it was a pretty neat experience, but once you get an offer like an SEC offer, then things are going to take off, and that certainly happened. I mean, we're in a great situation right now because we're getting a lot of colleges stopping by our school, and they're coming into our weight room and watching our kids work out. It would be really nice to have some spring football around here where these coaches could see them compete.
You open the can of worms. What would the spring football, having some extra time, do for the development of players, the education of kids? What were the positives of that?
Well, first of all, the most important thing is academics, and it seems like when you have a kid who's a big timer, let's use Derek as an example because he has so many offers, but we're constantly pulling him out of classrooms because coaches are coming to visit. And the time that they can get there is limited because we're within a 7:11 to 2:15 time frame. If we could have spring ball where the coaches could actually come in the afternoons and the evenings to watch our kids compete, it would be a lot easier for Coach Holliday and Coach Holgerson, guys like that, to actually drive down and watch our kids play a spring game or just practice. But academically speaking, that's the big thing for me. I mean, we keep them in the classroom. We can monitor our kids by being in the classroom. We don't have to pull them out constantly to meet coaches whenever we could just go outside in the afternoon and do a practice.
Now, Derek's not your first Division I prospect, the first prospect to generate this kind of buzz, but he received that Auburn offer on February 23rd. So you're only about 2 months into this. Have you noticed the positive impact, a kind of a ripple effect of coaches who are devoting attention to Derek, but now maybe they're seeing that your roster has other people that could interest them?
Yeah, I think that I think sometimes that kids can be overlooked, and I think kids want to be recognized for who they are and things like that. I mean, take Kentrey Greer for example. He's really busted his tail. I mean, he's the state's top performer in statistics and all that stuff. But I mean, you take a kid like Kentrey who doesn't have a lot of offers, and then you take a kid like Derek, it's going to help Kentrey get recognized, absolutely. So, I mean, we have Ohio State coming to our weight room next Thursday, and that's a big deal, and they're going to be able to see our kids work out and do things like that.
So, football coach, obviously a big football fan. Do you have a rooting interest in tonight? Do you pay attention to the NFL, or I know your time. You've got a lot of time you got to devote to your student athletes and your kids that you teach. But what's this night for you?
I think when you talk about the NFL, I think we all kind of watch trends and stuff like that. See, I knew he's going after my food there. I knew we all watch the trends of the NFL, different things like that. But as a high school coach, I pretty much spend my time watching college football and rooting for Aaron Dobson's football team. Whoever he plays for is who I'm going to root for, and because he's one of ours, and just making sure that we continue a connection to South Charleston High School with guys like Aaron and Derek wherever he may go, and Kentrey wherever he may go, and Fred Crozier, whoever.
I thought what Doc said was really interesting. Now, there's a level in between you and the NFL, whereas Doc's going straight, Marshall's going straight into the NFL. But what he said about watching the draft and seeing what happens to players who've maybe had some missteps, some red flags, character issues, and seeing where they fall in the draft, is that something that's relevant to you too? Because you're also trying to impart the same kind of values on your players?
No, yeah, I mean, we do a program that has it's a pyramid program, and we try to make sure that our kids understand that they need to be in the top 13% of that pyramid. So, I mean, we're trying to preach to these kids about character and your Twitter, the things that you do on social media, outside of the school. You know, we talk about being a good football player, being, great in your academics, but being the best you can be in settings in your community. And I think that is very important, because that will catch up with you, and it is catching up. I mean, this recruiting and this drafting is there's a lot of research that goes into it, and it's not a science by any means. It's a lot of luck, and it's a lot of just seeing a lot of football over time.